clip. I'm sure you've seen it a million times. But just for folks who doubt that you really were the Podfather, are the Podfather, and were recognized as such by even Steve Jobs, let's play the clip of Steve Jobs playing Adam's podcast back in 2005, beaming with pride over what you had managed to figure out how to do online.
If you were to eventually get into selling paid audio stuff,
you could try to sell podcasts, but the whole phenomenon is so great it's free. Okay. And I think what we're going to see is an advertising supported model emerge, just like free radio. Here's another. Adam Curry is one of the guys that invented podcasting, and he has a podcast called The Daily Source. Let me go ahead and subscribe to that, and we can go listen to his latest one. Just click on it.
Your daily source code, show number 180. I've actually had to restart the show 3 times. My Mac has been acting up like a motherfucker. I don't know what's going on. I think it's something to do with the file system.
Okay.
Now, how do you control, say, dirty stuff? I mean,
we're going to have an explicit flag on these like we do the music, so you can know if it's explicit.
Awesome.
That's what amazing. You know what I like about that clip the most, Megan, is at the end, Kara Swisher. Here's something revolutionary. Steve is clearly jacked about it, and the first thing that comes to her mind is, how do we keep the bad stuff away? How do we control it, Steve? It's so lame.
But then she goes on to say, so you'll make it easier for me to find it. So she does it. She takes a hit at herself a little bit, like she's going to be looking for the dirty stuff. But I love that. I mean, you really were, and I know you met with Steve Jobs and you saw this technology and said, "Hey, I have a great idea." When I look back at your background, Adam, it's like you were meant for that moment and for this. Like you started broadcasting at a very young age in the Netherlands. Your parents let you lie about your age so you could get a job at a radio station, as I understand it. And then the next thing you knew, MTV was calling. How did they even find you? Because weren't you still in the Netherlands when they called you?
Yeah, and I confirm my career or my hobbies really have always been broadcasting and technology, and I've always been kind of a tinkerer. So I had been, my career went from building my own transmitter as a 13-year-old, having my mom drive around the block, see how far the signal went, to the lying part was about, there was a hospital radio station, closed circuit, but it was very professional, so I was very excited. You had to be 16. I auditioned, and I was 15, and they said, it's okay, you can do that. It was, it was just a volunteer work, but we had the key to the studio, so we could do a lot of stuff. And there I met a lot of people who were doing big pirate radio stations in Amsterdam, where at the time in this predominantly socialist country, they had government-controlled radio, government-controlled television, and they had a popular music station, which at that point was still kind of playing polka music. And meanwhile, the pirate radio stations were in Amsterdam, and they were playing, import records from Chicago Warehouse and all kinds of cool stuff. And I just wanted to be on the radio, and they had a big signal. And then from there, I eventually got on. Things changed very much in the landscape politically and in the media landscape. Some different groups were allowed to use the government airwaves. I got drafted into that. And then suddenly I was doing really the number one music television show in all of Europe, and that was called Countdown. That's where that picture of Tina Turner is from. That was still in the Netherlands, because Holland was seen as the gateway to Europe. So when you came into Holland, that's where you were going to do your distribution of your records. And there was this great show who had an American host who could speak some English and would let you either perform, they could do live interviews, music videos, of course. It was live, which was crazy. It was really intense, like a 12-camera live show for an hour. And I was 19 when I started to do that.
Wow.
And at that time, the European Broadcasting Union, who puts on the Eurovision Song Contest every year, they came out with Europa Television, which was a pan-European satellite collaboration, and every country would contribute some programming, and we contributed the music programming. So that now was all of a sudden on satellite all over Europe, and you had countries like Portugal who were dirt poor. I mean, there was nothing going on before all the big EU money. and they were rebroadcasting this on their government television station. So all of a sudden you had kids in Portugal who were watching Bon Jovi videos, and they would send postcards, and I'd read their postcards on television. They were flipping out. They couldn't believe what was happening. This was just a crazy revolution. And MTV was trying to get MTV Europe launched. And I'm not quite sure, but someone saw me, and they were refreshing the whole VJ lineup. I wasn't one of the originals, contrary to popular belief. But I came in right when they were going to basic cable, which meant 40 million households, a little more professional, which is is funny because it wasn't. And they called me up, literally Steve Leeds, who works at Sirius, who is still one of my dear friends. He called up. I said, hey, you want to come work for MTV? And I said, where? He said, New York. I said, yeah, sure. When do you need me there? And I was gone within 2-3 months. I mean, it was fantastic.